As a senior AI engineer, I've spent the past few weeks finding the perfect way for you to integrate AI into your Notion workspace. You can see right here that Claude is rapidly creating new items and databases in my Notion workspace completely autonomously. In this video, you will learn how to achieve the exact same thing and build up your second brain even faster than before. Let's get into it. All right, let's get started. So I've got a completely clean Notion workspace right here, all for the purpose of testing this MCP server. So the first thing we're gonna do is we are gonna browse to this GitHub repository. This is the Notion server that we're going to be using today. And you actually don't need to download any code whatsoever. I just wanted to show what we're going to be using and how to call it, because what Claude will automatically do for you is pull in this MCP server when you start up Claude if you've got the configuration set up properly. It's just good to know where this code is coming from. The only requirement you need next to this is you will need to download Node.js, because this MCP server is a JavaScript-based application, and so you need Node.js to run it on your computer. But all of the links will be in the description down below. If you follow this video thoroughly, you will be able to easily follow all of the steps. So once you've got Node.js installed, you can go back to that GitHub repository, and the MCP Notion server will actually give you a couple of important steps that you have to perform first. The main one is creating a new integration. So if you follow this link here, you will go to a integrations page, which you can configure for your Notion account. And I'm going to go ahead and create a new integration called MCP and associate that MCP Notion workspace to it. So it's already good that you're scoping an integration to a workspace specifically, but on top of that, there's also some extra security layers so that this MCP server cannot just change all of the documents that you have in Notion and, for example, break your databases. It doesn't work like that, but I'll show you that later on as well. So we just create an integration here. We keep it internal and we just save it like this. And then we can configure the integration settings. Now, here you will get the secret that you actually have to copy paste inside of the command later. So you simply click on show and you copy the secret. I'm not going to do that because I don't want to share my secret with you, but that's what you're going to have to do. And if you scroll down here, you can see that this has the capability to read content, but also to update and insert content. So if you've got a workspace that you want to not give write access to, you could just leave this to only enable the read content. So that's a possibility. In my case, though, I wanted to also be able to create content. So I'm going to leave it with the default settings and it's good to go. So back on the GitHub page of this MCP server, we actually have to configure Claude Desktop and change the configuration file to include this MCP server. And you can see here that this npx command will be run. And this is, of course, the command that will be used to run the Node.js application MCP Notion server. So you don't have to actually download this code at all. It will just pull the code for you and automatically run it whenever Claude starts. But how do you actually find the configuration file to change? Well, for that, you simply need to start up Claude, go to the settings, like so, then go to developer settings and click on edit config. And then it will open a folder here where your desktop configuration is present. And in my case, I'm going to open that with a text editor. I'm going to go ahead and paste the configuration that you see in here. If you've already got an MCP server configuration defined and you just want to add this to your current configuration, you only have to take over this Notion part of the config. But because mine is empty, I'm going to copy that whole thing and then I'm going to paste it in here. So the one thing you'll need to do is replace this API token with your actual token that you created with the integration. I'm going to do that in the background, but once you're done doing that, you can just save the file and exit out of your text editor. Once you have saved this file, you can go ahead and reopen Claude, and then you should see this tool icon here with 17 tools available. And you can indeed see that there's a lot of Notion tools that are now accessible to Claude. So the way that I'm going to actually show you how to properly configure this for your Notion workspace is by first asking it to retrieve all the content from my Notion workspace. But if you remember what I said previously, my workspace is currently completely empty. So I'm going to go ahead and add a new page. Just going to give it an empty page, and then I'm going to call this test page just to see if Claude can actually retrieve this page from my workspace. So I'm going to ask Claude, can you list the pages in my Notion workspace? And let's see what happens. So when you ask a question like this, Claude knows that this tool is available, and you can see that I have to allow it. So I'm going to allow that for this chat. You can see that it uses Notion Search to try and find all the pages, well, at least up to 100 with this query. So there's no specific query because it's just trying to find all pages without searching for anything in particular. But you can see that it cannot actually find anything. So the results list here is empty. Now, why is that the case? Well, even though we set up the integration with our workspace, Notion has a bit of an extra layer of security. You have to explicitly give one page permission to a specific integration such that that page and all of its subpages will be modifiable by the integration. So the integration still doesn't actually have access to the entire workspace. You have to give access on a page by page basis. So how do we resolve this? Well, on our test page, we have to click on the triple dot menu here, go down to connections, and then we can search for MCP because that's the name that I gave the integration before. Once I click on that, you will see that MCP will get access to this and all child pages. So I'm going to say confirm. There you go. And now let's try this exact same question again. So I'm just going to, in the same chat, just ask the question again. Apparently I copied over this edit bit, but that's fine. It doesn't really matter. And then now you will see that it will be actually able to find that test page. You can see that right here, test page, last edited, URL, etc. So that's great. Now it actually properly works. So how about we give Notion the challenge to fill this page with a bunch of structured data for me to organize my life, including a bunch of databases that it will add dummy data to. To achieve this, I'm going to paste the following prompt. In a brand new chat, I'm going to ask for it to create a bunch of strategic databases and pages to add to my Notion workspace so I can manage my life. So of course, you'll have to change this based on your own goals with Notion, but this is a pretty general purpose one that works quite well. And because I'm first in this brainstorming session, I would recommend you to go to the settings and use extended thinking. It makes a lot of sense when you're trying to just come up with a structure for your Notion workspace. So you can see here that it's considering major life areas such as my work and career management, health and wellness, personal development, etc. So this is really going to be kind of like a typical second brain setup that I'm just asking Claude to create for me in the workspace. And we'll just see what it comes up with once it's done thinking. All right, so it's come up with a strategic workspace structure with a central hub with a couple of core databases like a task management system, personal development and knowledge, financial management, health and wellness, and my relationships and social life. So that sounds great. It's quite ambitious, but this is really going to test the MCP server integration properly. So let's see how well Claude actually performs on executing this plan. Execute on this plan by creating pages, dummy data, anything you need to do to achieve the goals we set out. Use any MCP integrations to achieve your goals. There we go. I think that will do for now. And after a little bit, we see the initial content popping up here on the left. And you can actually see that Claude is not perfect. Here on the right, we can see that it actually messed up the very first Notion append block call. But Claude is quite smart, so it does know how to recover from this. And you can indeed see that it's starting to really fill up my life management system. In fact, we already have this reference to this new page here called tasks. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And you can indeed see that this is kind of a new separate database that's being filled with examples here. So these are examples with area labels, due dates, just a couple of made up notes to illustrate how powerful this integration really is, together with the priority and the status of the task. So you can see here how it really understands how to structurally create those different pages in Notion, and you can really steer it in any behavior that's most appropriate for your use case. So on the right here, you can see how it uses different kinds of MCP functions. It doesn't just use append block to create content, it's also able to create a new database and create new database items. So this is not just a dumb implementation where it can only add text inside of a file. We've seen that with AI systems before. Now this is quite clever. It can actually constructively create new Notion databases and database items to fill up a new or existing database. While Claude is still thinking, adding new content, you can collaborate with the AI in real time. So for example, I think it's a bit weird that we have this test page header, right? So I'm actually going to go and get rid of life management system from this bit, and then I'm going to add it as our new title. And you will see that Claude just continues to do the work in the background. So it's kind of interesting. It's like an AI agent that works together with you and alongside you. You don't have to wait for it to be done. You can change the content as you wish while Claude is still adding content in the background. So I just left Claude alone for like 5 minutes and it has called the MCP server so many times and it seems to have added so much to my Notion workspace. It's really amazing that I didn't have to touch it at all. I feel like a year ago that would have been impossible, but this actually works quite well today. If you look at the screen here on the right, you can see just how many MCP server calls it made, and it's really looking like a competent workspace setup. But of course, the proof is in the pudding. What is actually in my Notion workspace right now? For that, we can go to the left here, and you can see that we have that full life management system set up with all of the different subpages. For example, projects for our task management. We have a health tracker. We have our contacts that we can keep track of. This is all arbitrary dummy data, of course. And we've got something like, oh, there we go, home maintenance as well. So you can just see that it created all of those separate databases independently. Now, of course, the idea behind this is that you customize it to your needs, but also that you have some kind of easy way to add items to this second brain life management system. So for example, let's say that I want to add a new book that I want to read sometime next weekend. Well, I'm going to go ahead and start a completely new chat because I don't think it's fair to show this example in this chat where Claude has all of the context around my Notion workspace already. I'm going to add a completely new chat to my session here. And this will not have any idea of our previous chat. I'm going to actually paste the description of this book, which I'm very interested in reading. So I'm going to go ahead and just copy the entire contents of the web page. And before I paste it, I'm going to say, find the right place in my Notion workspace to add a new book that I want to read next weekend. This is the book description. And of course, my pasted content contains a bit more because I pasted the wall content of the web page, but that's fine. Claude is quite clever and it will know how to handle this. So let's see what it does with this. Let's see if it can find the right database to insert this information and then actually update my Notion workspace. So let's allow the MCP integrations once again. And you can see that what it does first is try to find pages containing books, reading list. Now, I don't think it actually found anything interesting there. So what it then does completely autonomously is search for any databases that might contain books. And so now we can actually see that it just keeps going to find the right place to actually insert the book. So you can see that it didn't find any database that contains books. So it checks other databases, it checks collections, it then checks pages that might contain lists. And then it finally found a page called Life Management System that might be a good place to add the book. So it checks what's in the page, then it checks what's in the Learning Resources database. I mean, it is doing all of this completely independently in a new chat, so Claude has no previous context of what's in my workspace whatsoever, yet it's still able to iterate and try to find the right place to insert this book recommendation. So it keeps going, it keeps going, it keeps going, and it seems to have added this to my Notion workspace. So it seems to have added the book under the Learning Resources database. Well, let's see if that's true. Let's see if my Notion workspace is now updated. So let's close this window and check out where our book would be. So it should be here in our Learning Resources. And there you go. It's actually there, AI Engineering. And you can even see the author. You can see all of the notes, which are based on the website content that I pasted. And if we scroll to the right, you can see even more metadata. You can see that it is a book, that I've not started yet, and that it's got some high priority. So you can just see here how good Claude actually is at retrieving the context it needs and then inserting data into the Notion workspace. And this is an example where I didn't provide any previous information about my workspace at all. Ideally, what you do is you create a new Claude project that contains some previous context about your Notion workspace. Just give Claude the right context from the get-go, and it will be even faster at doing the right actions within Notion. But even if you don't do it, you can see right here, Claude is able to self-correct whatever it tries to achieve, and it will get there in the end. And I didn't even have to ask it to try again. It did it all on its own. So this is incredibly powerful, and I'm very excited to see you try this out as well. Now, if this video excites you, you should definitely check out the link in the description below, because I've got an AI engineering community where you can learn how to connect even more applications with AI. So I hope to see you there.